Hi, I'm Paul Austin-Manier, and this is Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. All right. So this week, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're diving into a job that sounds like it was written by a committee of architects, lawyers, and one very, very patient HR rep. Meet the construction scheduler, a role so buried in acronyms and corpo construction jargon, you're going to need a Gantt chart and flow diagram just to understand where the employee break room is. You'll be the glue holding together a major program at Toronto Pearson International Airport, herding stakeholders through terminal modernizations, greenhouse gas initiatives, and a world-class passenger experiences. Big words for a two-page job ad that hints at a bowl full of executive-level ego on the side. So, is this construction management or just aviation-themed babysitting? Let's roast. And a very special thanks to Celia in Montreal for sending this job post in to us. This is a listener submission. We appreciate you. Keep them coming. So this is a construction scheduler job. And I'm by no means an expert in the construction industry. So I was kind of curious, like, scheduler, what does a scheduler do? And the word seems self-explanatory, right? Like, you're a scheduler, you schedule stuff. But I figured I should do a little bit of research and see what a scheduler in this world actually does. So I went down the internet rabbit hole and I found myself on an industry association website for construction kind of organizations, firms. And they say kind of basically, construction project scheduler is the architect of time for building projects. They develop and maintain detailed project timelines. They sequence tasks, allocate resources, and coordinate with contractors. Their goal is to ensure that the project stays on track, minimizing cost delays and budget overruns. So, I read that and I think about Gantt charts. I really think about Gantt charts. Like, this task has to start here and end here. The next task has to start here and end here. And all those things run in sequence until the shovels are out of the ground and the mayor's ribbon cutting ceremony kind of happens and whatnot. So bear that in mind, folks, as we are going through the job ad, because that's, I think, some kind of important context. Let's kick things off with the roasty profile as per the usual. So for the folks at home, this is just a bit of a profile of the job ad to give some context. And Jen has not seen this ahead of time. We kind of like to just throw things at each other and, let the chips fall where they may. It's a little bit more fun that way. And I'm going to read this job ad out kind of verbatim as they wrote it. So if there are little things where I trip up over words or whatnot, it's because they've kind of worded something a little bit strangely and I'm just trying to deal with it in real time. Bear that in mind. So the job title for this ad is scheduler. The report to title is your manager. Don't exactly know who that is, but it's your manager. The company size is 10,001 or more, and that is across the entire consortium because the organization that has posted this job ad is a construction consortium of several companies that are working together on this project. The industry is construction, as we might have guessed. What do they do? Well, this organization, it is, like I kind of mentioned, a special purpose consortium formed to manage major infrastructure projects at Toronto Pearson International Airport for the infrastructure investments that various levels of government have made in recent years. Now they're trying to deploy all that cash. So that's what this organization does. Head office location is in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. The job location is also in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. And as you might guess, the geographical operating area for this organization is Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. The job type is full-time, but the duration is unknown. They don't actually specify that in the job ad, which I found kind of interesting. I'm going to kick things off by reading out the introduction to this job ad. I think it's pretty good context. This one's not too long, it's probably about a page and a half or so. But I'm not going to drill into absolutely every little thing in this because there are some redundancies. So we'll pick out some of the more interesting things to chat about and go from there. The job ad is structured into a few different sections. There's a job summary section, a responsibilities section, a work conditions section, a desired skills, knowledge, and competencies section, and that's it. So beginning off, the company is a general partnership of firm, 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 and firm. We don't name and shame on this show, partly because Jen and I don't have lawyers, and partly because that's just not our bag. We're not trying to embarrass folks. These are supported by design partners, architect, architect, and architect. Together, we are delivering the thing, a major program of client as a part of Toronto Pearson's infrastructure development plan. This multi-year program is designed to address immediate passenger growth demands while preparing Canada's largest airport for the future of air travel, including critical upgrades to airfield and infrastructure, greenhouse gas reduction initiatives, modernization of Terminals 1 and 3, and the creation of a world-class passenger experience. So that's kind of where we break things in. And, on a side note, I kind of feel bad for Toronto Pearson. Terminals 1 and 3, for folks who aren't in Toronto, haven't flown through Toronto, aren't familiar with the airport. There's Terminal 1 and there's Terminal 3. There's something missed in the middle. There's no Terminal 2. It's been that way pretty much the entire time I've lived in Toronto, and I've always wondered, flipping well, why? Why is there no Terminal 2? Well, we closed down Terminal 2 20 years ago and demolished it. So for 20 years, there's been Terminal 1 and Terminal 3. We're going to do some rebuilding, but let's not rename the terminals or anything. We're just going to keep 2 out of this. I don't know, maybe number 2s are verboten at the airport or something. Yeah, I don't know. The next part of the job ad is job summary. So it says, as a project manager within the company, you will lead and oversee the execution of complex infrastructure scopes within the program. You'll be responsible for managing project schedules, budgets, risk, and stakeholder coordination while ensuring safety, quality, and compliance are upheld through all phases. This role requires a strong leader who thrives in high security, high stakes environments, and can navigate the complexity of multi-stakeholder delivery models. So let's pause there. Those 2 sections in mind, does anything come up? One thing that stood out for me is that this job title is supposedly scheduler, but they call you a project manager within the company. That stood out.
That stood out to me too, because when you were describing kind of at the top of this, the role itself, I was like, oh, you mean a project manager? Like that was my first thought. This is a project manager. It's interesting how many times we see job ads that have a different title than what's in the body. Like it's, I don't know if it's just there was a final last minute change and they forgot to review it, or they used a template or something like that. But it happens quite often that there's a different title than what the role title is in the body. And also just going all the way back to the report too, I think is hilarious. We love a report too. Like we want to know what the reporting structure is, because it gives you so much more information into like career growth, into organizational structure. It can even give you a glimpse as to how much autonomy you're going to have, how much decision-making authority, all of that simply by listing who this role reports into. But the fact that they just put your manager again makes me think maybe it was a placeholder. So I feel like maybe already I'm seeing signs that they kind of wrote this and then were like, just get it out there, because maybe it was behind and they just didn't do that one final look over before they went live. Did you find it on LinkedIn, or where was this? Yeah.
So this was sent to us by somebody else,
right?
And to be honest, I don't know where they found it. They put the, like, we've got a little form on a Google form linked to our website that's like, hey, if you see a job ad, send it to us. Just copy and paste the stuff here in case the job ad goes away before we have a chance to look at it. So I'm not quite sure where this came from, but it does read like something that would be posted to an Indeed or something like that, like one of those job sites. It was definitely a public posting. Celia did say that in her note when things were coming in, that like it was a public posting. She came across it because she's looking to change companies that she works for. She's in construction, a little tired with what she's doing. So she was like, I was looking for jobs and I found this one, and it's kind of nuts because of A, B, and C, was what she said. So she presumably found it the same way a lot of folks would, just in going out there and hitting the job boards.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. No, so far very interesting to me, but nothing beyond that has, like, it's just, I just need more information before I can dig into the roast a bit. What about you?
Yeah, it's wild to me that even we've gotten, a paragraph and a half into this, less than a half a page so far, and we're both kind of like, wait a second, is this a scheduling job or a project management job?
Yeah.
The part that's wild to me is that the amount of money that's being put into this airport as a part of the infrastructure investments that the government of Canada and the provincial government are making is well into the billions of dollars. So this one like infrastructure improvement area is getting several $billion. That's a lot of coin. Yet this job ad is like a little bit confused. I find that interesting. And Celia, she said, like, she did say in one of her comments on sending things in, that the construction industry is in Canada, particularly in Ontario, is going through a pretty pointed labor shortage. I wouldn't say a crisis, but it is very difficult for construction firms to find people, to the point where some construction firms are resorting to, like, another friend of mine who works in the construction industry said that her firm, when I was chatting with her about it on background, she said that her firm has taken to sending people out to bars and trying to find people who can, like, work general labor on construction sites and be like, do you need a job? That's wild. Like, sending somebody to a bar to be like, do you need a job? That's crazy, especially in the backdrop that we're hearing of like the job market is total trash and it's impossible to find a job.
Yeah, but I do like, do you remember we did a follow-up recording of our live happy hour event? And one of the things that we were talking about is that we are all recruiters. Like everyone at every level should be recruiting and looking for a talent, any opportunity. So it's interesting to me that that's that. It's the same thing in British Columbia. Like there's a definite shortage of skilled labor and construction as well. And all the construction projects are just taking way longer than anticipated because of that. But one of the things you mentioned when you're talking about how much money is involved in these kinds of projects, how much funding there is, it's making me think about, I'm kind of bookmarking thoughts about potential salary if and when we get to the salary, because I think that that's an interesting thing to note. It's very common knowledge that there's a lot of funds, there's a lot of money, so it'll be interesting to see. And if there's a shortage as well, what the salary is going to be for this role. It should be a very generous salary. Will it be? We've learned that that's usually not the case. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. All right, let's go into the next section. And this section, actually, I'm going to read all of the bullet points because they kind of tie into the themes that we've been talking about. So for the folks listening at home, these bullet points, like, think to yourself, does this say scheduler? Does this say something else? Because that's the general thrust of what we're going to get into with this section. So responsibilities, and these are all bullet points: lead day-to-day management of project scopes, ensuring alignment and contractual obligations, technical requirements, and schedule milestones. Coordinate with design, construction, commercial, and digital teams to support integrated planning and execution. Develop and manage detailed project schedules, budgets, and reporting dashboards. Facilitate stakeholder and subcontractor meetings to monitor progress, resolve issues, and ensure alignment on deliverables. Manage change orders, risk registers, and mitigation strategies to minimize project disruption. Ensure adherence to safety protocols, environmental compliance, and quality standards on site. Act as a key liaison with GTAA, and that's Greater Toronto Airport Authority. That's the organization that administers Pearson Airport. on behalf of the federal government, which actually owns the land and the assets and everything. Act as a key liaison with GTAA representatives and other project partners for assigned scopes. Monitor construction productivity, track KPIs, and report project health metrics to senior leadership. Lead the development of project documentation, including status reports, closeout plans, and turnover deliverables. And the last one is support a collaborative team environment and mentor junior staff as needed. So that's the responsibilities section. Quite a few bullet points in there. Did anything stand out? Like for me, there's a little bit of a jumble of stuff in here where you're thinking scheduler, project manager, something else. What's going on?
I think to me, it's a project manager where I'm stuck. Again, I go back to thinking that they must have put the wrong title or something on the job posting. I think it's a project manager. A lot of it aligns with what I would expect for a project manager. It's the kind of like responsibilities are going to be the same. Really, it doesn't matter what the sector is, what the industry is. Project management is project management. And to me, I feel like there is alignment. What's interesting is, again, without knowing the reporting structure, remember it says you report to your manager, which is just hilarious to me. I just wonder the level of, it seems like a high level of accountability. And so without knowing who the manager is, it's tough to understand like where the authority lies for this stuff. Like you're the key liaison for the GTAA. Who is your manager? Are they not there? As a project manager, that's interesting to me. There's junior staff as well. So I just need to know the reporting structure because I need to know who is responsible for what. It would be interesting to know like what a RACI chart would look like for this role. And again, without the reporting manager, I don't know. It feels like a lot of responsibility for this project manager and a lot of like high stakes responsibility, not just making sure that this project goes from like beginning to completion, but a lot of high stakes responsibilities involved, which again brings me back to compensation, where it keeps taking me in that direction of it should be quite high compensation. But what seemed jumbled to you? What stood out to you for the responsibilities?
Yeah, everything that you said, especially with the backdrop that this is a multi-billion-dollar investment and project, right? So, like, we're going to liaise with senior leadership at GTAA because, you know, of course, you're liaising with senior leadership. Like, it's not like you're going to walk into GTAA and be like, "Yo, can I talk to the baggage manager? What about the people who are running like the jet fuel tanks on the tarmac? Like, let's talk to them about this construction." No, you're going to be talking to like executives in that organization and updating them on like progress and status and where friction points and barriers are. And to me, that does not seem like a scheduler's job. A scheduler is very much, and it should be at least in a project this size, a scheduler should be very much focused on execution, on balancing resources and allocating resources so that the project keeps on moving forward. Because typically in contracts for projects like this, there are financial penalties for delays, and there are financial penalties for things that are out of scope with the project, like things that are out of tolerance or whatever else you specify in the contract doesn't quite happen. Okay, that'll be a $22 million penalty, please. That stuff is common with like projects of this size. So you want your schedulers to be like really in the weeds on making sure that doesn't happen. Do you want them at lunch with somebody over at the airport having a boo? No. That's your boss's job, probably.
This is where it's confusing. So I have a question for you. Where the job posting is confusing because it says scheduler, but then it says project manager. In your opinion, in like a hierarchy, where does scheduler sit versus project manager? Like, it sounds like you're saying a scheduler is more like a doer.
Oh yeah.
And the project manager is more like lead in that kind of situation.
Yeah, from what I gather from talking to friends and acquaintances who work in this industry, schedulers roll up to PMs. So your PM is responsible for the P&L on the project. They're really the one doing like the stakeholder engagement, the management, the internal engagement with different parts of the organization. And the scheduler is just like making sure that stuff happens and getting the crews out, to a particular place on time, making sure that materials come in on time, doing that type of stuff. So like the scheduler, like they roll up to the PM. That's how it's really been described to me before. But this doesn't say that, right? Like this speaks to something entirely different, which to your point, like it kind of makes me think that there's a mislabeling of this role title. Now, was the scheduler part the mislabeled part, or was the project manager part the mislabeled part? And the role design is just screwy. Don't know, but there are some more signals that we'll see that I think will kind of tease it out for you.
Let's get into that. It's very interesting to me, and this goes back to the whole point of why we do our show, is because who are you trying to attract? You could be missing great candidates simply by having the wrong title in the job posting,
especially on a job platform, right? Like you go to LinkedIn or Indeed and you search for a scheduler job and you see this and you're like, this ain't a scheduler job. Or you go and search for a project manager job and this doesn't come up because it's titled scheduler.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more.
So the next section is work conditions, and this one's very short. The position will be based at our offices in Mississauga, Ontario, with regular visits to the site office as required. The position is 5 days per week with core hours of work between approximately 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. with 1 hour lunch, or as agreed upon with your manager. All employees must complete a rake and criminal background check. And for the folks at home, rake is restricted area identity card check. It's basically if you're going to work in a high security area like an airport, you've got to be able to pass the associated checks and make sure that you're not going to be a ne'er-do-well and steal stuff or blow stuff up or whatever else. It's a Canadian thing administered by CATSA, which is our organization that looks after airport security and safety and whatnot. Following this, we've got desired skills, knowledge, and competencies. Bullet points, there's only a few of them. 7+ years of project management experience on scale infrastructure or vertical construction projects. And I think that really should say in those two spaces, but that's how it was written. Next bullet point is post-secondary degree in engineering, construction management, architecture, or a related field. Proven experience delivering projects in a high security or aviation environments is strongly preferred. Excellent leadership, communication, and conflict resolution skills. Strong knowledge of construction contracts, scheduling software, and in brackets they put Primavera P6 or MS Project, and project controls. And the last bullet point they have in here is PMP or equivalent certification is an asset. And PMP is project management professional. It's a professional designation that you can earn. It's quite a thing to get your PMP. It's not like you go to a weekend course and spend 6 hours doing chalk and talk stuff and you're done. No, PMP is multi-year. It's quite intense. Does anything stand out there? Like for me, this is feeling much more like project manager. What they've put in there.
This is the project manager role. I do. So when we go back to the earlier, when you mentioned the hours, 8 to 5 with a 1 hour lunch, or work something out with your manager. I like that. I actually like the flexibility there. I think that needs to be seen and stated more so in job descriptions. Like that's a form of flexibility, and whether they realize it or not, they're speaking to their organizational culture just by having that one little sentence in there. Speaking of which, there's a complete lack of any reflections of what the organizational culture is going to be like there. There's no kind of like selling of the culture or the organization, but we'll save that for later. So I do like that. I do like that they're stating that there is some flexibility there within the working schedule, even if it's as small as that. They mentioned having a post-secondary degree. They mentioned professional designation in project management. Those are things too, when I go back to thinking about the salary, that are going to bring the salary level up more and more. But like straight up, like this is a project manager role. So this is what we thought right from the very beginning. And I find that to be really interesting as well.
Yeah, PMP in particular is a signal that that salary is going to need to be higher, because salary is just a function of supply and demand. That's it. Like the fewer professionals there are with a given set of criteria relative to the demand for them dictates the salary. You know, fewer people, more openings, higher salary. More people, fewer openings, lower salary. It's like there's a very basic economic correlation there. And PMP is one of those things where it's very intense. It's hard to get. There are fewer of them out there than, you know, project managers without a PMP. So that by its very nature is going to mean that salary's got to be higher, or else you're not going to get a PMP.
Yeah.
Very last section in this job ad is about inclusion. Like, I'll just read it out verbatim here. It says, company is an equal opportunity employer and is committed to providing employment accommodation in accordance with the Ontario Human Rights Code and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. We're committed to providing an inclusive and barrier-free candidate experience and work environment. If you require accommodation to apply, or if selected to participate in an assessment process, please advise Human Resources. Doesn't say how, but it says please advise them.
There's no email address or contact info about
no
accommodation. So they don't want to accommodate you then. Like that in and of itself is not accommodating whatsoever. Cool.
They want to put the words down that will keep them from getting in trouble with someone who looks at this and says, oh, it's not compliant. I'm going to complain to the Ministry of Labor, who in 36 months might actually like contact them about it.
And that's the whole job posting?
That is the whole job posting.
So there's no mention of benefits. There's no kind of benefits. Like physical requirements, like you must be able to lift this, that, you must have no vehicle, anything like that.
Nothing else. Nothing else.
There's no AI declaration, like we use AI, we don't use AI, this is how we use it.
Nope.
Paul, is there a salary listed?
No.
But that's illegal in Ontario.
Yep. In Ontario, it is illegal not to list a salary range for a job where the organization has more than, I think, 25 people. And this organization absolutely has more than 25 people. Now, there might be some wiggle room in that, because this is a consortium that is working on federal land for what's essentially a federal government capital asset. Maybe this organization is regulated by federal law and not Ontario law, which would mean that they don't actually have that requirement. But it's still very sketchy to me to not have a salary band listed on a job ad like this, especially where you're looking for someone who is in demand, like you're looking for a PMP. Anybody who's a PMP who's going out to look for a new job, especially in construction right now, given the labor shortage, they're going to kind of look this over and be like, no salary. Okay, there's 50 more here with a salary. See you later. So
no salary, but no perks, no benefits, like healthcare. There's absolutely nothing going on there. And this is where I go back to EVP, employee value proposition. What on earth would make someone, like you just said, want to join this organization or apply for this role? I mean, this is coming from a place of privilege, right? Like sometimes you just have to apply for a job, and that's absolutely fine. But it is really one-sided. It's very extractive. Here are all the things that we need from you, and we are going to give you like literally nothing back. You're not going to get any information. We're going to hold all of the cards. Again, indicative of the company and the organizational culture. Everything you need to know about the culture is right there in that job posting. It's not going to be a reciprocal relationship whatsoever. And when you want information, it's really hard to get that information, meaning total lack of transparency, probably like piss poor communication. I'm angry with this job posting. I'm very angry with them about this. Yeah, I mean, I have lots to say, but I guess I need to read through the full thing first.
Yeah, the fact that there's no salary, it kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
However, you're not off the hook, because I did look up the average salaries for both of these roles in Ontario in this industry. What do you think that this job is worth as written?
I went from being angry at the job posting to being angry with you, because for those listening, I hate guessing the salary. I get it wrong all the time, because I just think that folks are so heinously underpaid. It's horrifying. So I always make it higher than it is, and then I'm so disappointed. So what do I think? So this is in Ontario. I'm not from
Ontario.
I'm not that
Yep.
familiar with the region. It's a project manager. Don't know who they report into. So say, like, again, it could be like project manager level 2, which would tell me a little bit more information about what to expect from the salary. It could be director of projects. It could be VP of blah, 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 right? It really, you're missing such key information to try to figure out this kind of thing. This is just me stalling as I try to think about what
As
this
you do.
could possibly be as I do. I don't know, Canadian dollars, let's say it's 85 to 95.
Okay. Of course, we don't know what this company is offering, but you're pretty darn close for the average. So in Ontario, average salary for a construction scheduler is $81,900 to $85,000 per year, and that's from Randstad's salary book. The average salary of a construction project manager is $90,000 to $125,000 per year. So again, that's like kind of supporting our totem pole thing, where project managers a little higher on the totem pole than schedulers, right? Like schedulers report into project managers in a lot of these construction projects. So you're pretty close. You're pretty close on the average for sure.
Yeah.
This company, who knows? And for the folks at home, I'm the same. I tend to guess higher than what the posted salaries actually are. I think Jen and I are both optimists about like a fairer and better world, and we're continually disappointed.
Yeah, wah, wah. But interesting because, like you said, we don't know what it is for this specific organization, and we also don't know if this is a scheduler or a project manager. So that's another piece of information that we don't have.
Yep. Yep. I mean, based on what was in the job ad itself, I would lean more towards they meant project manager, even if they are kind of talking about it a little bit like it is a scheduler. Like there are definitely a few bullet points in there in the responsibilities that just say like, yeah, construction scheduler for sure. But then rest of the job ad reads like a PM. So what you gonna do?
This is it. I know we said that we weren't going to be looking at the chat, but I looked at the chat and there's a really good point that's made here. It feels as though it's being titled as scheduler, even though the responsibilities are that of a project manager, so that they can pay a scheduler salary. That's what it feels like.
Maybe.
Or it's just a mistake in the titling. The longer we've been doing this show, though, the more I'm like, people be sneaky.
Yeah. And, we do not name and shame on this show. Having read the original job ad before kind of taking out the identifying information or whatnot, some of the companies that are in this consortium have gotten into hot water in the past over labor practices. They are not squeaky clean, some of these companies. So probably, yeah, I know, construction, right? In Canada, like Colorado's shocked at that. Yeah. But that comment does hold some water, because that very well could be the tactic that they're kind of like trying to roll out here. I would be very interested to hear Celia's take on that. I hope that she kind of reaches out to us again after listening to the episode and says like, oh yeah, this and this and this, and for sure, that'd be really interesting. I think that I should, maybe we should start like putting a field in our form that says like, put in your contact information if you want to talk further, because there's so many times we do this where someone sent in a job ad and I'm like, oh man, I wish we could talk to them again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Celia, if you're out there and listening, hit us up. We got questions. All right, we're going to go into the intermission now, just a short break while Jen reads through the job ad verbatim. I'll have a little bit of a chit chat with the folks who are in the chat room in our live studio audience here. Again, thank you for joining us. We absolutely love that you're able to carve out some time and come here while we record another episode of Roast the Post. So Jen will be back in 5, 6, 7 minutes, something like that, and we will carry on to wrapping up the show and doing the job ad scoring. Welcome back.
So
right.
I had an opportunity to read through the job posting in full, because what we do is it would take forever to read through everything. So we just kind of bring to each other highlighted points when it's our turn to host. There wasn't much though that you left. Like you pretty much read through the job posting. And so now it's time to give our scores, I guess, of how we rate the job posting itself and then the job design.
Yep. So there are 2 elements that we score in each job ad for the folks at home. The first one is the job ad itself. How is the job ad written? Is it communicative? Does it explain what this role is all about? Is it easy to understand? Is it easy to read? Is it legible? Does it contain all of the things that a job seeker would be looking for as they're evaluating this role and deciding whether or not they're going to apply for it? So that's the first kind of scoring bucket. The second scoring bucket is the role design. As the role is kind of communicated or described in the job ad, does it seem like it's sustainable? Does it seem like it is well thought through? It's organized? Is there direction to it? Is there a sense of where this fits into the bigger picture? And is this a job, this role that someone will be able to actually do without flaming out? Or are they going to just like light their hair on fire and run out the door after 2.5, 3 weeks or something like that? That's the second bucket of scoring that we look at. So Jen, thinking about how the job ad itself was written, what would you score this out of 10?
I don't like it. I'm mad at this job posting. I don't know. I think that, the title, there's a mismatch with the job title and the title in the job posting itself. When it says the reporting structure, it just says you report to your manager. Like, what does that even mean? There's nothing that sells this job to the candidate. Like, and this is what I'm so tired of. I'm so tired of it just being like, yes, you've got an employment contract and you do your job and you get the pay. But like, what about your organization is there that makes me want to work there? And more we're seeing people, especially with younger generations, being drawn to mission-driven organizations, right? Like, you want to feel good about working there. And so what is it? It mentions a little bit what they're trying to do, but like, then what? So what? What does that mean? What are the benefits? I want health insurance. What's the vacation policy like? Is there professional development? Any kind of wellness initiatives? There's literally nothing listed, including the salary, which, as we mentioned, is illegal in the province of Ontario. There's no AI disclosure. So are you using AI? How is it being used? Are you using AI to rank candidates? Like, give us a little bit. What are you doing with our information? Being a Canadian job as well, there are specific privacy and data rules that apply to the Indigenous population. And Indigenous peoples own their data. And so there's nothing in there about that kind of, again, data protection. What happens to it? Can I access my data afterwards? So there's a whole lot of information missing here. And so I mean, somebody put pen to paper, so I'm going to throw them like a 2 out of 10 because somebody did something. So I guess it's again, another participation ribbon. But they did it really badly. So that's kind of the job ad itself. When we talk about job design, and like you mentioned, is it sustainable, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's not enough information here. I don't know who they're reporting to. I have no idea whether or not this role is sustainable, because I don't know what kind of authority they have, what kind of decision-making influence they have, what kind of ownership is involved. And you could actually mention this a million times already in this episode alone. You could give a lot of information by just explaining the reporting structure. We rarely see reporting structure done properly in job postings. So I don't know. I actually don't even want to give a rating for job design, because I feel like there's just not enough information there for the job design itself. If you force me to, let's just do a pair and do 2 out of 10 for both. but otherwise, there's just not enough information there. It's a fully interactive job ad, and it's like ruining my weekend. Just kidding. It's just ruining the next couple of minutes.
Deuces Wild in honor of Pearson Airport's missing Terminal 2.
There you go. Ooh, just bringing it full circle. That's a callback. Good one.
I'm not far off. So for this one, the job ad itself, I would give it a 3. And the 3 is really based solely on the points that they get for not having grammatical errors or like missing commas or stuff like that. And it's kind of a sad commentary on like the state of the job ad kind of landscape, when that is so uncommon that when I see a well-written structural job ad, I'm like, oh, you didn't miss any commas. You used the Oxford comma properly in there, like bonus points for you. But that's really the only redeeming thing about the job ad itself. Like the way that the job ad is kind of communicating to potential candidates. Yeah, there's not a lot there for them. There's that confusion over, is this a scheduler job? Is it a PM job? Like, what's going on here? We really don't know. They're missing the salary range, and if this is, regulated in Ontario, yeah, it's legal. They could be fined, and it's not a small fine for repeat offenses for something like this. If it's federally regulated, okay, they don't have to. They still should. They should, like we've said before on the show, don't wait until you have to do something to start doing it. If the labor market is shifting in that direction, you better keep up. Yeah. And if you're on the early end of the curve, it pays back benefits for your organization, right? So, get it done. Like, why not? You know what you're going to pay this role. One thing for me that was also kind of missing from the job ad is end date, right? Like, this is a full-time job. And I get that this can't be a full-time permanent job, because this consortium is only going to be around for the life of the infrastructure construction projects, which honestly will be a decade probably, but you still can't say it's a permanent job. But you could say, this job will be permanent insofar as the projects are underway, and this job will be made redundant within a year of construction wrap up. You could give the job seeker some sense of that. Because as it's written right now, you don't know if you've got a job for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or 6 weeks. You got no clue. Maybe this job ad is reporting into this position, is reporting into a group that is highly temporary in nature. Maybe it's not going to be around for very long. And you're wasting everybody's time if you're just kind of thinking to yourself, oh, we can talk about that in the interview. And you're wasting everybody's time, because people who wouldn't screen in for that job, if you'd put it in the job ad, are going to screen in, and you might have to talk to them, especially if you're looking for a PMP. That's pretty rare, right? Not a lot of them out there. Very, very difficult to do your PMP. Job ad structure, role design. We talked about the job ad structure and whatever. The role design is also a bit of a cluster for me, this one. I would give this a 1, which is pretty close to the lowest that I've ever ranked role design. And the reason that I did that was because even though we can kind of ask ourselves, was this just simply mistitled and somebody meant to put scheduler, where they put project manager, or vice versa. The responsibilities that are listed in the role design are both. There are facets of both roles mixed into this role in not a way that makes a lot of sense for an organization of this size, for a project of this size. Anyway, if this was a very small construction company, if this was a construction company that was digging ditches or something along a highway, sure, this would make total sense. But this is a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project. So taking those two roles, scheduler and PM, and squeezing them together makes no sense to me, and it's unacceptable. Like, it doesn't work. Even people who are looking at this job are going to be like, what the flying airplane is going on with this? I just do not know. So yeah, 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Companies that are this big with this much experience in construction, and again, we don't name and shame, but the companies that are in this bidding consortium have been around for a very long time. They should have their together.
But that's the problem. That's the problem, is that they don't care. They are treating people as just like resources that they can, oh, you don't like it, the thing is, they will find someone. They will find someone to do this job, right? And then extract everything they can from them. I'm also curious, when we like this, the lack of salary thing, I wonder if when you click apply, and I feel like the answer is probably yes, but that's just a major assumption, whether or not they'll say desired salary. There will be a section that's like desired salary, because you said like what you're going to pay them. Maybe they don't, right? Maybe what they're going to pay them is based on what the responses are in that desired salary box. And then they're like, lower the better, right? Like they're making the candidates do the work for them. And I find that just infuriating. And again, big assumption that that's what they're doing. But often you do see, when they don't have a salary listed, that they're going to get that information from you, just another extraction technique. So
yeah, I mean, even more infuriating that if that is the case, and if they're saying we'll make the candidates do the work for us on the salary, it's even more infuriating, because I found the average pay bands in this province in Ontario in about like 22 seconds. And I didn't look at the AI overviews either. Like, the second search listing was on basically a research company that does this sort of stuff, that comes up with salary and pay bands and whatnot. And they were like, in Ontario, this one is blah, blah, blah. This one is blah, blah, blah. It's right there, 20 seconds. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because they don't care.
They do not care.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that we can consider this job ad roasted, absolutely barbecued. The flamethrower got put on this one. This job ad sucked, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you very much, Celia, for sending it in, because I feel like it's been a little while since we've properly torched a job ad that sucked. We've been looking at some ones that were pretty good recently, so we're back to our roots.
Absolutely. Yep.
We'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Glad you could spend some time with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If today's episode helped you make sense of the hiring landscape, or at least feel less alone in navigating it, don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or follow the show on whatever podcast app you trust with your sanity. We're always looking for interesting job postings to break down. So if you've got one, whether it's surprisingly good or impressively confusing, send it in. Listener submissions keep things spicy. Follow that link in the show notes for more. Thanks again for listening. Catch us next time when we take on another posting that definitely has something to say.